Hey there, welcome to the Speakeasy. I'm your barkeeper, Jeff Belanger, and you have landed on a Friday. Trust me, it's Friday. I know it looks like all the other days, but I checked. I'm a researcher. I was thorough, and it is indeed Friday. So please like and share this post. Tell your friends, start a watch party, whatever it takes, because we don't want to be in here drinking alone. It gets awkward. Welcome to the Speakeasy, because there's never a cover and I don't card anyone and everybody's welcome. That's just how it is. We're just friends hanging out, talking about life and work and general weirdness, because it turns out most of the people I know are kind of weird. And I mean that with affection. We're all in good company. Okay, so we all have that friend, you know, that friend that when we get together with them, they talk a lot. And then when it's all over, you feel drained, like you just ran a marathon or something, and you hardly said a word, and you're just like, oh, that was exhausting. Well, it turns out there's a term for that. It's called psychic vampire or energy vampire. And some people may not even realize they are one. But anyway, I've said too much. What I really want to talk about, if we could, is my guest tonight, and I have the same last name. And damn it, I need to know if she's my sister, my wife, my cousin, or maybe even all of the above. So please welcome musician, author, poet, researcher, esoteric, extreme extraordinaire, Michelle Belanger.
Hello, hello. Cousin, brother, sister, whatever. ¿Cómo se va?
Bien, merci beaucoup. So so people ask us all the time if we're related, and it doesn't help that like on Twitter someone will tag both of us and be like, "Hey, are you brother, sister, whatever?" And then I usually reply with, "She's my wife, sister, and cousin." And then you usually reply and go, "No." I say leave it. I just let them wonder. So I got to know, are we related?
I'm not entirely sure. I know my grandfather's family, where I get the last name, is from New England, New Bedford specifically in Massachusetts.
That's not far.
Yeah, and his mother's name was Victoria, his dad's name was James, and much beyond that I don't know, beyond the fact that they're all really tall and they're Acadian French.
Okay, all right. What are you drinking tonight, by the way, in the Speakeasy, before we get too far?
The blood of the living. Well, actually, since I can't drink alcohol, or blood for that matter, just some tea. So very boring.
This is a mocktail, and full disclosure, it's just berry juice and seltzer, but it's good.
The wife has claimed the port that I used as a prop.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
So the wife is drinking the port.
Okay. So you're probably, since you're already married and I'm already married, you're probably not my wife. So if you don't mind, do you mind if I call in an authority?
Mm-hmm.
Won't take a minute. I'll do it on speaker. I'm not going to be rude.
Cool.
Got that? Okay.
Hello?
Mom?
Yes, Jeff.
This is your son, right? You got that. Quick question. Did you have any daughters named Michelle?
No.
Are you sure?
I am positive.
No other females came out of you besides my sister Susan?
Correct.
Can you ask Dad if he was ever like messing around and had another family?
Ed, were you ever messing around and having another family?
Around New Bedford.
Around New Bedford. Nope.
Have you ever been to New Bedford?
Have you ever been to New Bedford? No.
Never. No. Don't get him on the phone. It'll take.
He doesn't want you on the phone.
Okay.
Why? How much time do you have?
We only have an hour. That's it. So like, all right. Well, okay. That clears things up a little bit, but thank you.
Well, you're not going to tell me more?
Well, my cousin or whatever, Michelle Belanger, is talking to me right now in the Speakeasy.
Oh, Michelle, my belle.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to figure out if we're related.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, thanks for
what's her maiden name?
Belanger.
Chamberlain.
Mom, we got to go.
Bye. Thank you for calling.
Love you.
Love you more.
Oh.
Mom. That got us nowhere.
I need a Ouija board to talk to mine.
I have like 7. but it'd be weird with the thing here.
Yeah, a little strange.
So tell me, how have you been specifically since like all this closed down?
Eh, I mean, at first, I figured it wasn't going to be any different from writing because, like, when I get hip deep in a research project, like especially like the Dictionary of Demons, like I will just read and research and go through stuff for weeks at a time, kind of like stumble out of the office and maybe order Panera. But there's a certain level of just sort of like weird stress when you don't have the option. So I've
Yes.
been managing.
Yeah. So no, I get it because it occurred to me there were days before all this where I'm like, wow, the furthest I went is the mailbox because like you're busy, you're writing. I work from home, like I'm a contractor, and you get working on projects, and yeah, it's no different. You're using the phone, you're using internet and books and all that other stuff, and then suddenly you're not allowed to go past the mailbox, and you're like, well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
now I want to.
It kind of comes in little peaks and valleys. Like yesterday, I was like super like I just want to go out to Panera. Like I just want to go somewhere where there's people and order something and happy and I also don't want to get sick, so I'm just gonna stay home.
I know it's tough and it's a bummer, and we're trying to figure it out. The first time I interviewed you was years and years ago for 30 odd minutes. And I think your book, The Psychic Vampire Codex, had just come out. And I don't want to go on and on about psychic vampires. I know you write fiction, you do so many other things, but it occurred to me, I was like, oh man, because I've got friends who are single and live alone, and that's, I mean, it's bad for all of us, but that just seems worse. Just can you start by can you define a psychic vampire or energy vampire for us? We'll start there.
Since I wrote the book on it.
Yeah, why not?
And if they've been watching What You Do in the Shadows, they've actually clearly done their research. So a psychic vampire or energy vampire is a person who needs to regularly and actively take typically human vital energy in order to maintain their mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And I have been getting a lot of emails from folks going, I'm stuck in my apartment, it's me and my cat. I'm really starting to feel it. What do I do?
Yeah.
So troubleshooting it, as a bit about that. Everybody, if you believe in psychic energy, vital energy, whatever you want to call it, everybody exchanges it. Like every interaction we have, and folks who've been isolated probably are feeling it. Like there's just something missing in human interaction, and the only reason psychic vampires earn the word vampire is there's a greater need for it, and nothing else seems to do but people.
Right.
And there's a lot of theories and a lot of different beliefs, probably just as confusing to navigate as like the witchcraft movement, where there's all the different ways in which people practice, whether it's a religion, whether it's their spiritual path, whether it's just you learn magic and you do a little voodoo.
Right. No, I get, and so I think about people I know in my life who, and I'm sure they're not aware that they suck the life out of all the people around them. And then you start avoiding them and you're petrified. You're like, the phone rings and now we all have caller ID and you're like, oh, no, I can't do that. And I mean, but so if you can self-identify and then you have a willing donor, right? I mean, isn't that the proper way?
Yeah, it's all about consent, having somebody who's willing to do it with you, and also someone who it's not a big deal unless you're unconscious about it, because then you're just kind of like running around like Colin from What We Do in the Shadows and just grazing off of everybody willy-nilly. But I talked to a friend who is a first-generation Chinese American. I was fishing to see, like, does your culture have anything like vampires in it? Like I was just doing sort of like a little bit of like research of folklore and whatnot, and when we came to like living vampires, he sort of laughed. He's like, we don't have a word for that. We have chi. I mean, like there's vital energy, we call it chi, and there's some people who have low chi and some people who have high chi, and you just kind of get together and share chi, and it's not a big deal. And I'm like, well, I grew up in Ohio where we don't even believe in any of that stuff, so I had to kind of like struggle along and go, what on earth is up with this, and how and why is it tied up with my psychic abilities? Like, it's not bad enough that I'm the weird kid because I can see dead people. I'm also the weird kid because I eat people. Why?
So let's talk about the weird kid. There she is. What horrible, evil thing did you just do or just about to do in this picture? Look at little Michelle. Look at her.
So I had an aunt, Kathy Belanger, pronounce it the way that you do, who was a
No,
nude
I'm
fashion
Belanger
model.
tonight, lady.
Yeah, well, sometimes the
Okay,
way in which people will pronounce it.
fair enough.
She cover of Cosmo level like fashion model back in the 70s,
Okay.
and she was, if she came for family things, she always came with a camera, and she would just, I mean, literally be like, "Work it for me, baby," like taking pictures. So she did a whole series. There's like 8 different photos that lead up to that one, and the first one's really cute, and I'm having fun, and I'm like, she's having me do different like facial expressions and stuff, and that one is when I'm really done. And I was
Yeah.
not afraid to let her know.
No, and so okay, the pronunciation. I professionally and in my everyday life in America do pronounce my last name Belanger, which is how your family pronounced it, right, growing up. However, Bélanger is the proper French
Hmm.
pronunciation. And when we were talking about this just before we went on, when I've traveled to Canada or to France, the very first time I went to Canada, I was like 22, staying in a hotel in Calgary. And I was checking into the hotel, and I said, they said, "What's your last name?" I said, Belanger. And they said, "How do you spell that?" And I said, Belanger. And they looked at me like, "You're an idiot. Like,
Hmm.
your name is Belanger, and it's one of the most common names up here. It's almost like Baker in the US, right? Almost like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
super common. No one would have to ask you how to spell Baker here." And so I was like, "Oh, so I've just learned when I cross the border, I go Belanger. It's all good."
Yeah, for me, I was brought up pronouncing it Belanger, and it's way easier for folks in the States to spell if you do Belanger.
Hmm.
And then I met my grandfather, from whom the name came, and I was in my 20s, and he was a little offended. I guess there was a messy divorce there. There was a reason I didn't meet him until I was in my 20s. And long story short, I liked him a lot better than my grandma, so I went with his pronunciation.
Cynthia, good comment from someone with the last name Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it. No, for sure. So, okay, you've got baby pictures. This is so wicked fun. Look at this little cutie.
Yep.
Was that part of that whole fashion photo shoot still?
Yeah, like I
Yeah,
was I was
had
a
to be.
ham right up until I lost patience with it.
Yeah, look at you working it. You're like, I'm going to be a fashion model, and of course you weren't. You didn't go that route, but you could have. And then
They
doing the
actively
bikes.
tried to recruit me back then, and Aunt Kathy was the one who was like, "No, no child models. You don't even want to go there. Just don't."
So I'm glad someone cared about you as a child.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
That's
wasn't too much of a pain in the ass. That is my Uncle Ray's motorcycle.
right on.
Um, the one that you see me in a Cessna. That's his plane too.
There
I
you
will
are.
occasionally talk. I Uncle Ray was a Vietnam vet. He was an airman. He had some connection to Project Blue Book, which I was too young to understand like fully what a big deal that was. And he was the fellow who took me UFO hunting as a kid. Like we'd go sky watching.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
So
like most people are like, "Oh, you're all about ghosts," and I'm like, "No, my Uncle Ray was like super into this stuff. Like he had some weird gadgets and things that he would try to explain to me." But I'm like, 7, 8, 9, 10, going, "Uh-huh, okay. It does what? EMF is what?"
it's funny when you look back at your own life, right? And you can, I mean, I didn't plan to be in the paranormal. That was not like my childhood dream. It's one day I just kind of woke up and went, "Oh my God, this is what I do." Right. And,
Hmm.
but looking backwards, I can see all the little dominoes that fell from like a young age and trace that. Do you know where's your earliest domino where you're like, oh, I mean, was it looking for UFOs? Was it something else?
The UFOs were actually sort of like a side thing. Like my whole family had experiences, so I remember the first ghost that I am conscious. I wasn't aware at the time of seeing, but like it left an impression on me, and I asked about the experience. I was 4. It was probably just a couple of months before my final open heart surgery. So it would have been probably maybe May of 1977, whatever
Hold
year
on, don't
Star
bury
Wars
the
came
lead.
out.
Open heart surgery at age 4,
Oh, I was born with a ventricular septal defect. I was given a life expectancy of 5 years.
right?
I had 2 open heart surgeries and a bunch of other minor surgeries to try to keep me patched together until such time as they could put me on a heart-lung machine and actually perform the final life-saving surgery. And I was the first person in that hospital, the first child to survive what they put me through, because early 70s and stuff. So honestly, people who believe in NDEs and things like that, as things that spark psychic abilities always ask me, like, did you have that? And yes, I mean, they found out I had a heart problem because I went into cardiac arrest in the crib.
Right.
So like, where did the little, like, where did the avalanche start? Like
Or I
really
wonder,
early.
like, were you feeling your mortality at such a young age when most kids aren't supposed to feel
Hmm.
their mortality ever? You're supposed to be fearless and you're going to live forever, and you don't think about mortality until way later. I wonder if,
We
like, you were forced to think about it because your parents are saying we're scared out of our minds because this is really serious, you know?
I was a really precocious kid, and we had conversations about it. Like we had long heart to hearts about it. My mom's way of dealing with it was right up until that final surgery. She did like her own little version of Make-A-Wish, which is to say that
Hmm.
we went to like every amusement park she could take me to. Like she talked. This is the '70s, so they were a little bit more lax. But she talked to the folks at Jogga Lake Park, which was a big amusement park around here, into letting me on the roller coaster, even though I absolutely was not tall enough to ride the ride.
Right, right,
And, I just thought it was the best thing ever. We went on it a couple of times. Heart patient, roller coaster.
right. All the
But
no-nos.
the likelihood of surviving the surgery was so slim, though,
Yeah.
that she was determined to like let me have as much as possible. And
Oh,
I was, yeah, so yeah, definitely grew up with a very different perspective and
yeah. Yeah, I
conversations
didn't
about
have
things.
those issues. I had asthma, but whatever. Every kid had asthma. No big deal.
Hmm.
Um, so okay, I'm still not sure. So I'm gonna bring up this photo again. There's you. Now listen, look quick, right? Watching. Huh? And back and back. I don't know.
See,
It could be
there's
there.
there's there's some resemblance, but again, the Acadian French, like that was a particular like ethnic group that came over and I don't know, possibly distantly. I don't think as far back, like I had somebody poke around in the genealogy, and as far back as like my grandfather and his parents, doesn't seem like we've got anything in common.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Whatever.
Mm,
You said you have
but
brothers,
it's
right?
fun. Mm,
I know, and it's not. You know what's funny? Someone shared the post today about our thing tonight, and it said brother and sister paranormal powerhouse, and I was like, oh, but I think they meant it. You know?
So the one thing that always strikes me as a suggestion that we have a relation is the bizarre sense of humor, your ridiculous sense of humor. That that's totally my family. Like that's I know that like online I'm a little bit more like, very, very serious and stuff because I'm a goth and we must be
Sure.
serious. But no, I'm not.
Marvin says you're the cuter one then and now. Thanks, Marvin. Appreciate that.
Eh,
Next time you need a little ride or something at a paranormal conference, you just go ahead and call Michelle. Whatever. I can take it. We have the same hairstylist now.
yeah, these days, yep. I don't know. My wife's been threatening to like come at me with clippers, so we'll see how that goes.
I'm getting a Floby, like from eBay, an old one.
Mm,
Um, wanted to ask if you guys were related. It's still coming up, and we've been talking for
yeah.
20 minutes.
Well, it's the same last name, and for most folks in the States, it's an unusual last name.
Right.
And what's the chances that two people with the same last name are also in the same weird niche?
Yeah, there's that. I mean, thinking back on my family reunions and stuff, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Mm,
But yeah, fair enough. The Cynthia says she's got a Belanger on her side. Okay, this is like a reunion here.
mhm.
Tracy has a good question. So we've got those friends who are the psychic vampires, the ones we don't like. How do we ward them off? Garlic is good because like it stinks and they don't want to get too close. But is there other ways?
Honestly, just don't give them what they need, like shut them down. If you, with the caveat, if you believe that energy exists and that they are able to psychically take your energy, there's a couple of really simple things you can do. Shielding, where you just put up basically you're enforcing your personal boundaries with intent of like, nope, this is all mine. You can, just F off.
Yep.
Uh, in really bad cases, if you have to work with the person and like, or like they're a family member and you just can't tell them to go F off,
Hmm.
uh, concentrate on take the monarch butterfly approach. Think about something really yucky or like a terrible tone or just something that like is really, really irritating and just kind of project that at them while they're, noshing on you. And make yourself taste bad. As weird as that sounds.
Okay.
Simpler, much less complicated things is, in most cases, if somebody is psychic vampirizing you, if somebody's feeding off of you, it's almost always someone that you've interacted with in the past 10, 15 minutes. They're probably in the same room. If they're not actively engaged in conversation with you, they've had an interaction with you, and you feel weird, woozy, whatever, just get out, like move out of the room. Like most people can't concentrate on it if they can't see you, especially if they're unconscious. They're
Right.
just grabbing whatever's available. So just remove yourself, like nip off to the bathroom, take a couple of breaths, shake it off. There's a technique that at this point I think everybody in the paranormal has some familiarity with: grounding, centering, shielding, where you just kind of let everything go, find your stable, quiet space, and then just reaffirm your boundaries.
Right.
And you can visualize the white light around yourself or whatever. To me, it doesn't matter whether it's white light, fire, a tower that is completely impenetrable, whatever, but you are reinforcing your personal space.
I'm terrible at that because like I just don't ever want to be rude. So when
Mm,
someone starts in, I just smile and I nod and and I'm like, "Oh, I don't there's people that are so adept at like
mm,
deflecting and being like, "Hey, so you've got a story to share or you want to just suck the life out of me, but I can't be here right now." And I'm not good. I just take it because I figure if
mm.
someone like put themselves in front of me for a reason, like they have something they want to share or whatever, and there's some exchange they want to have. 99.9% of the time, of course, it's great, it's fun, it's awesome. But once in a while, I'm like, okay, what do I
Yeah,
do?
yeah, where you're just like, I needed to pee. I gotta pee
Yeah.
now, right now. Bye.
The P. Yeah, that's my go-to. They're like, we're literally in the bathroom right now. You were walking out. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know I'm getting older. I got to go again. What are you gonna do? Oh, anyway, good stuff. This is a good question too. Can they do it over phone or Zoom? I'll answer the first part. Yeah, I have
Mm,
psychic vampire friends that call and like you see it come up and you're like, oh no, and all you say is
mm,
hello, and then like a half hour later, okay, bye, and
mm.
that's all the words you said. But I mean, go ahead,
Yeah,
you're the expert.
so if you believe that people can do Reiki healing at a distance or any kind of healing at a distance, this works on the same mechanics, just in reverse. So yes,
Yeah,
if they can focus on you, like if they can concentrate on you, and it's not like they're sucking your energy through the phone lines. It's making contact with you allows them to focus on you. It's the same way that somebody would do energy work or do a psychic reading on you. It's
sure.
easier with something to focus on. Hello to Christine.
Tim, that's correct. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to learn here, Tim. That's That's a tough break. That's oh, you kids are so funny. Oh, Michelle, I miss normalcy, and I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
Like we haven't seen each other in person in ages.
Yeah, holy crap. Well, and like I had a pretty busy docket this year for different paranormal conventions, and of course all of that's poof.
Yeah, I know, but we've got this. I've been fortunate. I had a couple cool things happen this week. So I do a lot of like library programs and stuff where I would tell stories and share folklore and legends, and almost all of them are switching to Zoom.
Oh, fantastic.
And so what I love about Zoom is that I'm kind of, I don't like my things recorded because I'm a big believer in like a performance, right? Like
Hmm.
I want you to be part of that particular night. I'm going to tell different stories and I want you to be there. So Zoom allows that to happen where they can't record it, but they can be there, and it eliminates any sort of travel restrictions. So people all over, I mean, I've got like 10 of these booked right now and more
Hmm.
all the time. So I'm grateful for that. And so those are coming up, and so it's something, right? It's what was it? Interview with a Vampire, right? Where Pitt's character is sucking on the rat's blood, and he's like, "It's surviving, right?
Yeah, it's something. Yeah.
It's something. It's not the same, but it's something." And so
I
I
mean,
think we're making it work. And what are you seeing? How are you making it work, given
like
that we're stuck?
really just making the transition to doing things online through StreamYard, through Zoom. I've got a Patreon, at Patreon/haunted. That's how long I've had the Patreon. I managed to nail
Wow.
haunted.
Yeah, that
and,
is
and like,
something.
yeah, prior to this, it was mostly like, I'm writing books, have some books and stuff, but like we popped into some streaming stuff and just to like share share classes and teach classes. Like I'm doing this like 5-part energy work, energy healing class, and it's all online. It's all like this. And suddenly there's people from England, from New Zealand, from Australia who can participate from all over the place and are hungry to do so because we're all in the same boat right now. I mean, this is
Yeah.
global.
Yeah, it's and that's a weird thing. Something else I've noticed too. People have been asking questions. I'm sorry, I'm not popping every single one up, but like, so asking questions about good energy and bad energy. I'll say this because I don't. I mean, I don't consider myself all that esoteric or otherwise. I'm actually remarkably boring. But when I first went out, when this whole thing went down, you know, like the once a week grocery run or whatever, people were so out of their way kind. No, you go, you go, no, you go. It's okay. It's fine. It's all right. No, thank you. I'm sorry. No, yeah, you too. Stay strong. Whoever you are, stranger. It was sort of beautiful. Now I went out the other day and people are getting nasty and it's, you just feel it. You feel it in the whole building. I had to go to Home Depot and like, I felt it in the whole building. People were just looking for a fight. Like, go ahead, push me, touch me.
Yeah,
Just
wanting to incite like any kind, even bad interactions are good, are desired right now because there's just you've been cooped up.
I mean, I don't know how much you're getting out at all for anything. Are you getting to the stores at all, or?
No, I've been avoiding them. I mean, well, early heart patient, I'm pretty high risk. I've got that and asthma, so I should just stay away from this entirely as much as possible.
Yeah.
Which I mean, for long term has kind of got me assessing like how much travel am I gonna do afterwards, because like everything's kind of up in the air. But no, I haven't been. The only place I've gone is like every 2-3 weeks I go to Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
And our Trader Joe's is like incredibly specific, like 28 people or less are allowed in the thing at any time. Everybody's masked up, like it's very rigorous.
Right.
But anything else, nope.
It's weird because like I always wonder, like, what can we do, right? I mean, what can we do on our little level? These speakeasy things were born as soon as the whole lockdown started, because I'm like, I need to connect. I need to talk to people. I want to have some drinks. You know, drinking alone is terrible. So the whole idea was like, it's a place where we can all drink alone together, and you know, made me feel better. Don't take that away from me, okay? Listen,
Yeah, no,
let me have that.
I had started live streaming on YouTube and Facebook together because StreamYard, once I discovered it, was kind of a game changer for like the ease of
we're on both right now, yeah.
And there's this ancient Egyptian incense recipe that I got a wild hair at my butt to research last year and make. And it is not an easy thing. Like, it's super complicated. It's called kapet or kifi, and it is this like 10-day plus process. And I just started live streaming it as like everybody else was making sourdough, and I'm like, I'm just gonna make, you know, incense off of this recipe that's recorded on the walls of the Temple of Edfu. You know, no biggie. Right. But like, follow me on this strange thing. Is like, I also give you all the like background on it and just ask me questions about mythology.
Yeah.
Hugely popular. Like, you know, at this point, so many people are like, are you gonna do another one? I'm like, well, that batch is done, but I guess I could make another batch. I still have some of these really weird ingredients.
I love it. I feel like we've connected with people, like on here anyway. Like there's folks that come to almost all of these things, and it's like a hangout. It's like a little community, and I love that. I love that this is something, right? Like, let's just be normal here and not be jerks, and just hang out. Like, that was the whole idea. And I think that we got to figure something out. And I get it, because if you're desperate, if you don't have income, and like you're running out of your last dollar, I mean, shoot, that's just not fun at all. But like, you can't take it out on others, you know. But what can we do? And it's hard. It's hard when your government won't let you work, and you know, you're just stuck. It's been tough to watch.
Well, and the uncertainty, because
right.
I mean, at this point, we still don't even like 100% know how it's passed. Like, we've got some ideas, but everything's still a work in progress. It's scary. I mean, it is more interesting than making banana nut bread, but don't knock banana nut bread, because I made a whole bunch of that the other day, and to the point where I was told under no uncertain terms that I should stop making loaves of bread and sweet things because because my wife likes to be slender.
No, I get it. So if you've been to the store, you know, like, flour is one of the hardest things to find. And we're not huge bakers here, but my daughter and I started making homemade bread. And as everyone knows, homemade bread is freaking awesome. And so we were like, well, why buy it? We can just make it. It's not hard to do. You just need the time. And guess what we got? Lots of time. Lots of time. We don't have a lot of flour, but we have a lot of time. So anyway, it's been a whole new experience. And I've put on like 5 pounds, which I know is nothing. They call it the COVID-19 for a reason. People are putting on like 19 solid pounds. But that's my next thing is I'm like, all right, I've been doing house projects. I've been redoing websites and working on new stories and all kinds of stuff. And now I got to work on me again because, you know, that first month I was like, yeah, chocolate for breakfast, whatever, you know, and that's not a good long-term strategy. No. Yeah. See, Jason said live streams have become the best part of quarantine. There's bands that I'm big fans of that are doing like weekly shows from their living room. It's been awesome. It's been
one of the things that I've really liked in terms of feedback is there's a lot of people who are due to disabilities or finances can't ever make it out to like paranormal conventions or any of the other appearances. Like just sheer mobility issues mean that they can't be there, but they can access things like this.
Yeah.
And so like there's this whole extra group of people who can now be included, and that's really nice.
There's one question here. Amanda wants to know, how do you think the spirit realm has changed during this time? Do you think? I know you do a lot of work in psychic development and things like that. Have you sensed a shift?
Less with spirits and more what I'll broadly call the collective unconscious. Like if you are tuned into psychics or empathic stuff at all, there's just this sort of background noise of angst and anxiety it's kind of hard to discount. And I know a lot of the folks who are sensitive navigating that, like learning to block it out and not just have it kind of overwhelm their day where they just, I'm fine. And now there's just this crushing weight of depression and I can't do anything because the world is, you know, rightfully, like really, like so many minds are upset. There's so much suffering. And just thinking about the number of people who are dying alone, you don't even have to be psychic to kind of have a moment about that.
For sure. Absolutely. Okay, Michelle, we have to take a quick break because what we're going to do is, this is really cool. I had an anonymous donor send me a bunch of these. These are $25 Amazon gift cards. And I was told explicitly to give them away to people who watch the Speakeasy. So what we did, we do a little trivia. Please don't answer, Michelle. Please don't. You're not eligible. I'm sorry. But we're going to do a quick trivia question. How you answer, just post a comment when you think you have the right answer. And the first person to get it right, I'll message you after the show, get your mailing address, and I'll mail you a $25 gift card, courtesy of someone you're never going to know, but who was very generous and kind. And I'm grateful for it. So you ready? Ready? Let's do it. It's trivia time. All right. Greg Lawson, the Paranormal Detective. Take it away.
Thanks, Jeff. Hello, everybody. This week's trivia question is coming from the Paranormal Detective trivia game. It's going to be an Explorer card. Inconsolable after her passing of her son, Willie, this First Lady employed well-known groups of mediums in Georgetown in order to conduct seances in the Red Room of the White House. Name this First Lady. Good luck.
There it is. Okay. I think kind of an easy one, but I know that's me. So let's see. Go ahead. First person to comment. We'll give it a second because sometimes things come in different orders. So we'll let that all float in for a second before we announce our winner. But well done, all of you. And thanks, Greg. And thanks to our anonymous donor for doing that. Just someone trying to make the world a little bit better. And I love that. My God, look at them. They're all flying in. Many, many correct answers. I'm just giving it a second to make sure. Because see, the thing with StreamYard, if you don't wait a second, like it takes a second to catch up. Because look at all these. Holy cow. I think I see the first one here. We'll give it one more second because you guys are blazing. Thanks for nobody getting it wrong. But I'm just trying to make sure I get the correct person who got it right first. And I don't see anyone before. Right. Connie, congratulations. You got it. You're the first one. All right. Connie, I will contact you after the show and mail you $25 gift card. Get something you need, something you want, whatever. thanks so much. Thanks for playing, everybody. That was fun.
Cool.
I want to show another picture from your childhood because, again, I can't 100% say we're not related. Check this out. Boom. Yeah, that's when I saw that, I'm like, holy Millennium Falcon in front of the Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
So raised on Star Wars?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And it left like a huge impact on me because remember that summer was the summer of that open heart surgery, and the last thing I did, like the last big thing, was we went and saw Star Wars on opening day.
Oh.
So like
in the 1977 Star Wars.
Yeah. 1977 Star Wars.
Okay. So when I was a kid, all I ever wanted was Mark Hamill's autograph, Luke Skywalker. You know, all I ever wanted was his autograph. I wrote letters to like Hollywood, and I think literally I just put like Mark Hamill, Hollywood, and put it in that, and figured, well, obviously that
like you did.
yeah. And never got one back. And then I was at I was actually a paranormal convention where we were doing a fundraiser, and one of the prizes was.
Oh.
Do you see that?
That is fantastic.
That's that he signed it. He even wrote the line on it. He says 3PO turn off all the garbage mashers on the detention level. Still in the box. Still got the tagger on it right there. Still got so yeah. 1999 Toys R Us, Mark Hamill autographed doll. This is my hope is that one day I can retire with that. I don't know. That's probably really unrealistic, but I still love having it. So I'm just wondering, and that was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater as well, not under any duress. That was the first one I saw, and I was like, whoa. And even though I've seen them all multiple times and hated a couple of them, especially more recently, they could put out Star Wars the Polka musical, and I'll go. I'll be there opening day.
Yeah, there was something magic. It wasn't the first movie I'd ever seen. Actually, I'm pretty sure the first movie I ever saw was Fantasia. Which Night on Bald Mountain, like I was really tiny, and that left quite an impression. But my mom was a violinist, so the music just held me enthralled. But Star Wars,
the Disney Fantasia, like the acid trip.
Yeah, Fantasia the acid trip,
right?
Like Night on Bald Mountain with like the whole Walpurgis Night and the dancing devils and everything. Like I was just like, oh. I think my whole goth thing started right there.
That was the moment. You can look back.
That was
like,
probably the moment.
Yeah.
But Star Wars just ignited an imagination for me. Like my guy was Han Solo. Like I wasn't sure if I wanted to like marry him or grow up to be him, and like somewhere in between, I didn't care. But yeah, many lightsaber fights.
Yeah. Oh, I know. God, that movie, it defined a generation. And I think, you believed in magic, you believe the Force, right? Like, I mean, now that you study what you study, like you could see all the various belief systems that Yoda borrows from.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like he didn't invent that, but just learning like Buddhism and Taoism, and you're like, oh, okay. So this is kind of a samurai movie in space, really. Right. Yeah. No, it was amazing. Are you binging anything right now to keep yourself sane or insane?
So
either way?
I like a lot of true crime stuff, and we were catching up on Criminal Minds, which somehow I'd managed to never watch.
Okay.
So we ran out of that, and my Illyria had discovered a podcast / YouTube thing called Critical Role. And another thing that was formative to my childhood was Dungeons and Dragons. So if you play D&D, I don't know if you do, it's fine if you don't, but like as an older role player, we can never get like anybody together once they had kids and careers.
Yeah.
So this is really fun to like watch somebody else run the game. It's like sort of like being there with the game, and it's a lot of nostalgia. The storytelling's fantastic. So that's been our thing. Like once all of the work of the day is done, we settle into my office, put the big screen TV on, and just watch Critical Role.
Oh, that's adorable. And I'd like to say I'm doing something real brainy and thinky, but I just keep watching Joe Exotic over and over because I could just watch the shit out of that. Like, that guy's got to get out of jail because we need more episodes. That's where I'm at. Fair enough. Okay. So question for you here. Why do I attract paranormal energy?
I'd need a little bit more context for what type of paranormal energy, if it's a negative experience or a positive experience, and if there's triggering things for you. I mean, if I wanted to take a wild stab at it, there's a lot of people who are empathic, and empaths, folks who are sensitive to the emotions of others in a sort of psychic way, often feel like they're pulling energy into themselves. It's more, in my experience, that they're so finely tuned with their perceptions that
Hmm.
they're a little bit like a violin. A well-tuned violin, if you play a strong note in the same room, the strings will vibrate.
Yeah, sure.
And some people are like that, especially if you're not conscious that you have psychic perceptions. You have no way of shutting it off or controlling it, and so you will feel like you're bombarded by it constantly.
That's a
You
good
just need to figure
analogy.
out where the dial is.
So when you're teaching psychic development, I mean, do you think anybody can do, I mean, obviously someone who's just shut off to it is probably not going to sign up anyway, but
Mm.
do you think anyone can learn it?
I think the ability is something that is actually completely human and that pretty much everybody has. It's actually so normal, we don't think of it as psychic unless it is an experience that kind of crosses a threshold that kind of takes us to an uncanny valley.
Hmm.
So we have an experience with a spirit, and that's like, whoa, there's some weird stuff out there.
You could say shit.
And yeah, good. I'm never sure, and I'm a little foul mouthed. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. I figure speakeasy people have had drink is fine.
Mm. Well, I mean, so when you have a threshold experience, you realize there's some weird shit out there, and you ask a lot of questions about it. I don't. Ooh.
Yeah.
Um, but most people, I use this example all the time to the point where I've seen other people use it. You walk into a room where two people have been arguing. Those people aren't arguing anymore. They're not even in the room anymore, but you can feel tension on there. You can feel something. Especially if you've ever had like a roommate situation where like you can just sort of feel that. And unless you want to get into like a weird, I don't know, Cirque du Soleil level of mental gymnastics and say it's pheromones,
Okay.
what else is telling you that that tension is there? Like what part of your perception is that from? It's probably not the five physical ones. So I think that there are people in the same way that we have people who, don't have 20/20 vision, for whom the perception is not as well developed, and certainly some for whom it's just not there, but they're the exception, not the rule. And it's just a matter of becoming aware of it and asking yourself, like, where are these perceptions come from? Where is the information that I am drawing about this experience, this place? Like, where's that coming from? And then learning to tell the difference between that, drawing natural conclusions about your surroundings based on, I mean, it's why I wear blindfolds for most of the stuff that I do,
Yeah.
because I'm perceptive and I honestly a little skeptical. So when I walked into a place for Paranormal State and they're like, what do you perceive? And the ghost turns out to be like some, little 6-year-old blind-headed girl, and the house is just festooned with images of that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say, oh, I see a 6-year-old girl, because she's on the walls everywhere. But if I
Right.
go in blindfolded and I get that impression and it matches the description and I have no way of having been exposed to that, I can at least go, well, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So something's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Trudy has a great comment here. I get this, right? So she used to work with dementia patients and had to stop because
Mm.
she was picking up on the emotions and the confusion. That would be over. I mean, I do pick up on the emotions of others. I get that. Like I can be empathic that way, especially in different circumstances. That would be hard for me. I can imagine it takes a certain kind of person to work with patients like that. Do you find that, or are you able now at this point to just put the walls up and take them down as you need to?
There's certain situations that just are a little bit too much, and it's more it's a combination of like certain types of emotions, but also certain situations. As someone who grew up basically in hospitals and I have a lot of negative associations with them,
I
I
bet.
find
Yeah.
it a lot harder to be able to keep my own barriers and boundaries up if I'm in a hospital situation. So it's hard to go visit somebody who's in a hospital or a nursing home or any kind of like medical thing, because it hits me on some pretty visceral levels. And then there's the way that I perceive stuff. So on one hand, I can't block the way I ordinarily do, and also there's so much. It's interesting though, I know a lot of folks who are empathic, and I classify empathy like it's a type of psychic ability. We just don't think of it as psychic because it's not all the fun bells and whistles. I see, visions and whatnot. But a lot of folks who are empathic find themselves drawn to jobs where they are connecting with people and helping people, and it's a blessing and a curse. Like, they're really good at their jobs because of it, and
Sure.
it takes this huge emotional toll. It can really lead to burnout if they don't figure out how to manage it.
Yeah. So someone had the question. Marvin, when he's not calling us potty mouths, wants to know: will psychic or energy vampires ever draw from like devices? Do you think?
So there's, the kind of anecdotal evidence with hauntings
Right.
where ghosts, there's an energy drain, there's a battery drain, that sort of
Hmm.
stuff. That I don't think that psychic vampires get any nutritional value from draining batteries or whatever, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence reported from folks who technology doesn't work the same way around them. Batteries do not hold the same level of charge. And I can say that our sound guy on Paranormal State, Shah, would swear on a stack of Qurans that, like, my particular battery pack, especially if I was concentrating on anything, he would have to replace my battery pack about 3 times compared to once on anybody else. And he was just like, he just got used to packing extra batteries for me.
Right. Right.
It would be great if I could just be like, okay, I'm hungry, let's just eat some Duracells, and that's not it,
Expensive though.
unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Duracells versus, hi, new person I don't really know. I'm gonna tell you that I'm a psychic vampire and I need to kind of do a funky thing here, and we
Right.
can make it a massage or something, but it's still gonna be real weird. And oh, where are you going? Oh, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's the first time we parted. That's how that conversation went. So nice to meet you in person finally. I gotta go. This is awkward. Tracy wants to know. She sees your tarot, depending
Mm.
Belanger, behind you, right behind you there. Do
Oh
you?
yeah, this one is, I've got a collection of tarot. This is the Vampire Tarot, which really nifty, cool themed art. Not useful as a tarot deck, just the way it's put together. Like, it's a terror to try to shuffle.
Just pull
Um,
one. Just pull one. Let's see what we get. Just reach
let's
in
see, what do I
randomly.
got?
I always get the death card. 100% of the time, I never don't.
All right, let me see what we got.
Please be death. Please be death.
All right, so here's the back of this deck, and let me just flip over to whatever we get. Who is that? That is Strength.
That's the other one I get.
Well, there you go. I've been reading tarot since I was 14. I designed my own deck as kind of a bucket list thing. It's called the Watcher Angel Tarot. 2010, 2011, because it was after the Dictionary of Demons. I'm not going to say I'm a tarot collector because I know tarot collectors and they've got a lot of tarot, but I mean, there's certain ones that catch my attention. I don't do for myself a reading every day. I take a much more Jungian approach to tarot. For me, I like the art. I like the archetypal aspects of the cards, and to me, they are kind of a mirror that you hold up to your own perceptions. They're useful, especially for folks who are psychic and have a hard time with their own intuition and listening to it as them. If you can just use the cards and kind of project that outside of yourself, it gives a lot of people permission to be more psychic than they think of themselves as.
I think it's kind of cool that you pulled a random card during this really weird time and you pulled Strength. I don't know much about what the meaning behind, but I mean, I can even interpret the word strength.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's pretty cool. I don't know. Of all the cards you could have pulled.
The classic image for Strength is a maiden with a figure 8, the symbol of infinity, over her head, and she is holding shut the jaws of a lion. And it's important that it's a woman doing it because it's not just strength of arms or like, physically overbearing strength. It is the strength to endure, strength that is more than just the strength of your physical body, strength of soul and spirit.
And suddenly that little random pull became sort of significant.
Mm-hmm.
How does little Christian Michelle in front of the Christmas tree getting the Millennium Falcon for Christmas? How do you get on the pagan path from there? What were the steps?
Well, I was raised Catholic, Irish Catholic, which is really not very far from pagan to begin with. So I'm trying to think of how many. I was raised by my grandmother and her family, and they were 1 or 2 steps away from coming here from Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
So while being Catholic, we were also raised with belief in the site. I heard stories of black dogs and the black coach, banshees, and like family spirits. So I was raised in this weird stew that was Christian, but kind of also still had a whole heaping load of Gaelic spirituality in it. And I started studying beliefs. It was partly because I wanted to understand my abilities, like what I was experiencing.
Hmm.
And that led me to first parapsychology, from that to psychology, from that also to comparative religious studies, and kind of merrily led me down the road of, wow, God's way too big for any one religion. I just kind of see truth kind of everywhere, and I see politics everywhere, and I don't like the politics part. I'm more into the mystical part. So we'll just call me pagan and carry on.
Yeah, I always thought, again, I was raised Catholic as well. And when people started, when I first got into the paranormal side and people are like, oh, it's witchcraft, it's evil, it's this or that. I'm like, I was raised Catholic, man. We had such a spectrum. There's the God and devil, and there's angels and demons and saints and sinners and purgatory and nuns and priests. And I'm like, there's a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whole thing in there. And I was like, what is purgatory? What is, I know purgatory was pretty much an invention, but whatever. It was interesting to be exposed to that and then realize that ghosts and hauntings actually, I didn't think countered my Catholic upbringing at all. I thought it fit in fine. I didn't not really think it was a big deal. I still don't. But I also don't really consider myself Catholic anymore. I just, not against, I just sort of walked away and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, if I really have to put a label, it's more universalist. Like I see truth everywhere in
Sure.
all of them, and I've studied. My degree is in comparative religious studies to give some context for it, and the specialty are new religious movements. So like modern stuff, the
Mhm.
modern magical movement, which includes paganism, but actually has the New Age movement and a whole bunch of other stuff in it. And what I value is humans' ability, the impulse to believe, to see something more to our lives than just this, and the role that faith plays. I don't care what your faith is in, but just that you have hope that there's some way that it will get better just because you want it to.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And now we also live in a time when your belief defines your reality. I mean, it always did, but like it seems like it's so much more on display right now. I believe 2 + 2 is 8, and
Mm.
I don't care. You take your fancy degree elsewhere. 2 + 2 is 8. I believe it, and I'm listening to this news channel that'll tell me 2 + 2 is 8, and so obviously I'm not the only one who knows
Hmm.
that to be true. And you go, no, here's 2 apples and 2 more. That's 4. You go, whatever. Witch, you're a witch.
I want to speak to your manager.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Like,
disagree. I think I don't participate in that.
yeah, like, and and suddenly you're like, oh my God, we're at a place where we can't agree on facts anymore, and belief
Yeah.
is just, it's post-truth society, and I'm like, my God, I don't like living in post-truth society.
No, me
I liked
neither.
when there was some degree of like, okay, these are facts, these are beliefs. Beliefs are okay. No one's saying don't have them, but
Just don't
like,
ask belief to be fact. Like that's
right,
really kind of my bottom line, is like belief is, to me, any religion, any belief, and some paranormal stuff falls into the umbrella of belief to me. It is fine if it has truth for you, but to expect it to be objective fact that must be accepted by everyone is kind of misunderstanding the experience.
yeah, and I don't know how we claw back from this, where we start to understand, like, where people are like, oh, I should have freedom not to wear a mask. And I saw a funny one today, like, I should have freedom not to drive in the lines on the highway anymore. Like, I was born in a free country. I can go across the solid lines, whatever.
Mhm.
And you go, yeah, I guess you could. I mean, it could be fatal for
Yeah,
me.
no, we've hit an interesting point with that.
Yeah.
And I don't. So my undergrad stuff, the final project was on women and witches in Shakespeare and the witch craze. And
Yep.
I remember back then being like puzzled, like how did an entire society have like this mass hysteria? Like how did this happen? But then you look into it and you realize that there were different political groups and religious groups. Like everybody had agendas. Like it wasn't necessarily a big conspiracy, but there were definitely people who were kind of helping it along. And there was, stuff like the Malleus Maleficarum, which was actively
The witch's
written to
hammer, yeah.
disseminate this stuff and stoke these fires. And I look back at that and I'm like, oh, 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 how does it happen? How do we do it again after we like, how are we here? Why?
So because you have to put all of these beliefs and crazy phenomena into the context of history. And that's one of the things, like, so for example, I live sort of near Salem, Mass. And one of the things that's never talked about when you talk about the witch hysteria and the witch hangings, they all just say like, oh, these crazy Puritans with their simple minds and extreme religious beliefs. No. So like, how about there's a major war going on just to the north that's driving refugees south into the area of Salem. And you've got villages being literally slaughtered by Native Americans who are at war with the British and still upset about King Philip's War and like so many things going on. When someone says the devil walks among us, man, that's real, because the village 20 miles away was slaughtered. Like, you knew people who knew people that got killed by these minions of the beast, right? And that's what your preacher's saying. Not that they are, but I'm saying, your preacher says, well, God's on our side, obviously, and the devil's on their side, obviously. And so suddenly, like, everyone's just so on edge because people are literally dying, getting killed, getting murdered. And then you put that in context, and it's not much of a push between, like, really, the devil's here, there's witches. I believe it. And so but how do we get our sensibility back as a society? The one thing I've always preached is, like, people get so caught up in national politics, man, go vote in your little local election. That has more to do with your life, the taxes you pay on your property, the schools that are in your community, the police, the fire, the roads, like that, where you drive every single day. Like, get involved with that, make your community better, and let that like go outward instead of like trying to go to the top and say, if we just had the correct president, then everything would trickle down. Nothing trickles down, right? It trickles up.
I grew up in the Reagan era. I know nothing trickles down but shit.
Nothing. Yeah. Start in your own community, make that awesome, and let that spread. I mean, that's where you can do something and see the difference. You want to build a park in some little crappy woods that's been neglected, you can actually get that done. I mean, that's a conceivable goal. And I just think people just, think like, oh, if we just had the right president or kept the right president, whatever, you vote for whoever you want. But the president doesn't affect you nearly as much as everybody thinks. Your mayor, your congressman, your selectmen and your board that runs the town, they have a big effect on you, but no one votes for them. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I have my own soapboxes. I get it.
Yeah. So anyway, look at us. It's almost out of time. Let's plug some stuff. What's going on? You got these classes, you got all that stuff going on. That's awesome. There's your website. Everything's there. I checked. There's your books. And what are you writing right now? Like, what's being written?
I'm going to be starting a book on past lives. And the folks on my Patreon channel got to basically vote what my next book was going to be on.
Cool.
And then the big thing that's coming out in September is the 10th anniversary of the Dictionary of Demons.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, 10 years. And it's hardback. Like the first release is going to be like this limited fancy release, 3,000 copies, yada, 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 hardback, embossed, whatever. It's about 500 pages long. It's not a small book. Like, there's a lot of stuff I added. So the Patreon, the classes, and working on past lives.
Very cool. Well, that's good stuff. I'm glad. I mean, the good news is people like us, even when the economy tanks, we can still write. I mean, that's what we were doing before. You just hope it sells and people have money to buy it, so we can, do things like eat, which is awesome. I'm a huge fan, big fan of eating and having drinks and stuff, like, huge fan of that. So thank you guys for watching tonight. Thanks for all the support. You guys have always been awesome. You really have. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram too. Michelle and I follow each other everywhere now. I just got on. I was late to the party with Instagram.
No, me too. I'm like slowly figuring it out. So if people have like friended me or sent in a request and they're like, what's up? And I'm like, I am nearly 50. I'm trying to figure this out. I am actually starting to feel my age.
Get off my lawn. Say it. Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad you're well. I'm glad you're writing, because like it's always a good time for that. And and appreciate everybody watching tonight. Of course, your bartender does appreciate tips. There's my Venmo. If anyone wants to, buy the next round of beers or whatever, I do appreciate it. You guys have been very generous. And thank you for, again, to our anonymous donor for giving me a bunch of those to give away, making some people's days a little bit brighter. Be kind to each other, everybody. We're all in this together. Try to take care of one another. Try to smile. Try to take a deep breath. Michelle, any parting words of immense wisdom that's going to make everyone glow?
Honestly, just look out for yourselves. Hug the people you love. Life is too short not to enjoy it.
Amen. Thank you to my wife, my sister, my cousin, my friend, Michelle Belanger. Take it easy, everybody.
Bye.